What's going on, everybody? Drew over at Future Strategy Gaming. Thank you so much for checking out another one of my reaction videos. This is reaction time. Bellular's honest thoughts on Final Fantasy XIV so far, which is great because it feels like all the videos I've made in between, he's only experienced up to a level 19 archer. This last video, he briefly talked about how he's past that, but he didn't really give us an indication of where he's at. So this would be kind of a cool perspective to see how much farther he's gotten along. Let's take a look.
So have you ever heard of a wildly popular MMO that has a free trial up to level 60 that includes the Heaven's Word expansion?
He even promoted for us, guys. Take the win. Take the fucking win.
Okay, so the first thing that you put here is my updated thoughts.
Yep.
Damn, they're even
My
plugging it
updated
on
thoughts
screen
on
for
Final
us.
Fantasy
This is
XIV.
wild.
We're on this, by the way.
Well, I mean,
All right.
I'll swap it over to the main camera, I guess.
Okay, sure. Go
And
for it.
off we go. My updated thoughts on Final Fantasy XIV. That's
Nice.
fucking do it. So, where we last left off from last week's stream was I had on my Archer character just completed Gridania. I had hit level 18.
18.
And I'd seen a cutscene that was basically before they were going to send me off into the wider world. And the way that it basically works overall structurally is of Eorzea, which is like the continent you're on, there seem to be three major allied factions.
Yep.
Which is Gridania,
Limsa,
Pirate
Limsa,
People,
Ulda.
and the Sultanate. I've forgotten the name of the other two.
I actually don't remember their proper full names. I remember the Grand Company names: the Immortal Flames, the Order of the Twin Adder, and the
Maelstrom.
But I don't remember the actual country names.
Whoops. But
yeah,
those are
doesn't matter,
your sort of three countries.
Yep.
And my past experience had basically been, it was initially quite jarring, some of the quirks of FF14. I got over those. The story was slow at the start, but it came together kind of satisfyingly, even though it all did feel a bit more low stakes. But I was basically a happy camper, and I was kind of... Was it your appetite is wetted? What's the
Wet,
turn of phrase?
W-H-E-T.
Wet my appetite? Is
Yeah.
that even a turn of phrase?
Yeah,
Am I
wet,
making-
yeah, WHED, wet.
Yes.
Wet one's
He
appetite
gets
is
it.
to prepare the appetite. And
Cool.
sense.
Yeah.
Well, yes, the game successfully did that for me.
Nice.
So that's where we leave off. To pick it up, then I've not actually played that much because a bunch of other stuff came up. But what I have played has been
He's
important
busy.
stuff. So
Okay.
I left Gridania on an airship. The character that had sort of spurred me onto my initial journey kind of was like, "All right, you've done well, kid. Off you go." So I go to those two places on my airship, and there's actually loads of cutscenes and stuff. There's a cutscene where
explaining.
they show some of the characters who kind of look like faction leaders to me. I don't know, maybe they're scions or maybe they're something, but they were
Who's
like
he talking
important
about?
in the sort of final fight before the moon. Like the moon kind of blew up and a dragon came out of it and it kind of like reset the world or some crazy stuff. When the evil Garland or whatever they're called empire was invading or something. But they kind of showed that cinematic, and then I ended up visiting characters from that cinematic.
Yeah.
And it's the sort of thing where in WoW it would just be like, oh yeah, gotta go here, click on that NPC, click accept quest, click, read the thing, click the dialogue, done, go to the next one, do that,
Right.
done, go back. And I'd be like, oh my god, these are all just boring, walk here, do that, fetch quests. But what was actually different is that they had established me quite well as a character in that world. And I was so I felt like, okay, I am this character. I have had these conversations with these people in this world because of how the dialogue in that game is framed as dialogue, not just walls of quest text. So I thought that was just got me more, I guess, more immersed with my character.
Exactly.
And then it's like, if I'm
It's a
super
big
immersed
deal.
with my character,
That's
then I
what
don't
this
mind
game does so well.
having that more sort of walking and
Yeah,
talking,
slow play.
exploring the world, that kind of world building ish content. So yeah, I first went to the pirate city. I talked to the guy there. He then sent me in an airship, or she even sent me in an airship to the Sultanate, and I talked to the big buff dude.
Ulda.
who's-
Roban.
Yeah, who seems to lead them, and the FF people seem to like him a lot.
Roban's a great.
Oh, Robant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was doing that, and it was that thing where as I was doing that, I was talking to those characters, and I was learning little bits of history
Right.
of their peoples
Right.
and what they had done.
And that's important stuff, too.
Honestly, it came together, and I was like, cool. I'm excited. So they're doing this thing where they're teasing the what are they called? Garland?
Garlean.
Garlean.
Garlean. So the Garlean Empire, they use this magitech, I think they call
Yeah,
it.
that's exactly it.
Which does make them kind of look like the big evil empire, which I guess they are. So they've done that thing where those characters, they established them being worried about the Guardian Empire. as like a looming threat over the world.
Jesus.
And so I'd learned about that. I'd learned about these characters, seemingly in a context where these are characters I'm going to get to know quite a bit, that my character will actually have a relationship with. So I felt quite good about all of that. And then they sent me back to the pirate city, where I had a quest to basically help them out dealing with a local problem, which involved doing my first dungeon in the game.
Okay. So
Now, that was all interesting because, number one, the pirate city is fucking hard to navigate initially, but it is cool. And it's really funny because it's not like graphical fidelity-wise, it looks incredible.
There's a ton of shit in the background.
Like, vistas or whatever. I mean, it sort of does, but it still looks a bit jank because it's FF14 and it looks like FF14.
Yeah,
but
totally
it was
true.
like how novel that city was and just how cool its fantasy was and all of that. That I was initially like, oh, wow. It was like, I went to a new level
for
of
old
the city, I turned
Charlie.
my camera, and it wasn't like I was sitting there wowed at the visuals, but I was like wowed at the thing I saw in the world, which I guess is whenever a game has successfully captured your imagination.
Absolutely.
That's a fairly big distinction between wooed by the visuals and wooed by what it is.
Yeah. So then I went from that.
So I felt for my Mount Highjaw first time I saw it.
What was funny with the dungeon is it was an early MMO dungeon, so I obviously don't really expect much. And there was basically no
Tasha,
mechanics. It was just pull lots of trash fast, kill all of said trash. Now, I did get the feeling that it was a more exploratory and interesting dungeon at its core than what I experienced, because I think by this stage people just like they know the route through that pirate dungeon. And
You just blast through it.
It had a little bit of a twist, I guess, at the end, sort of narratively, that was kind of neat. So it's that thing where, as an actual bit of dungeoning gameplay, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh wow, this was an amazing dungeon, I had so much fun. It was
okay.
Fine dungeon, but I had quite a lot of fun doing it because I just felt like I was kind of there for the journey because of all those things that I've just said. And then what struck me as being really cool about doing that dungeon is you were able to join me. At the time, I was level 19.
Level sync.
And this is, I guess, one of the cool things about this game. So I guess my side is I'm a newbie, level 18 archer, need to do this dungeon for a quest. That is a part of the main scenario quest, so I have to do it. I guess then you come in, so...
Yeah, so obviously I'm, at the minute, I'm like item level 517, 513, something like that, where I'm fairly endgame geared on my level 80 bard, done a lot of shit, but I was actually working on this document here for the stream. You were like, oh, you said something with Duty Finder, or you're going to Sastasha, and I went,
Sastasha,
sure, I'll log in. And I logged in on this MacBook, actually. It survived the journey. Decided, I've got a level 50 white mage, so I'll just swap over to white mage and queue with you. And there we hopped in. It wasn't even like roulette leveling, because it was the only dungeon you had. It's the only thing we could queue for.
Right.
So I went in, healed it. There was another tank, another DPS. I got a level. I got 15% of a level from XP. You got 2 levels from it.
Damn.
And it was just, I was there to hop into the queue to make the queue quick.
Yeah.
And it's just because
And you were rewarded.
Yeah, it was cool
Feels
how the
really
game
good.
let you help me out, but also you could get those levels for doing that.
Right.
And I guess it's the sort of thing where, it's cool. Like, World of Warcraft has got party sync, and I think
It's not the same, though.
Like, you could party sync down to my level, and we could do a leveling dungeon together.
Yeah.
I think with this and FF, it was just that
Just
because
cleaner.
you have multiple jobs in your character, and then your jobs are leveled specifically, it kind of solves so much of the alt friendliness problem, and it just kind of meant that you were so rapidly able to go and help me out.
My alt is another
So I thought
job
that was
instead of
cool.
another character.
You got some levels out of it as well. So yeah, it seems like that's the game's worst dungeon, but it all sort of fit in pretty decently.
Yeah.
definitely not the worst dungeon.
No,
Okay, not the worst
you're gonna do
People are
Copperbelt
saying
Mines
it's
and
been a
a
snooze fest.
It
Yeah.
is. It's just because it's level
all the
16,
early
so when
ones,
you're synced
yeah.
down, and someone said, was it like you was a carry? No, it's actually not. It synced my level down to the max level of the dungeon, which is 18.
Yeah.
So you were actually 19 at the time, and it synced you to 18.
Okay, yeah.
And then I was 50. It synced me down to 18.
Right.
So I only had a couple of abilities.
Yeah.
And I was properly, appropriately leveled for it. And then I also got XP that went towards my
Current
overall
level. Yeah.
as well. So
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
do a good job
so-
of making it scaled
That all just
appropriately.
That was fun.
Yeah.
And well, now I'm going back to Britannia
Excuse me.
to continue my questing there. But they've done a pretty decent job, and in my head, I know there are overarching threats that are kind of interesting. that I'm sort of, I feel like, okay, it's going to be really cool whenever that bit comes in. So yeah, you know, so far I have liked what I've seen of characters. I've liked how they've done world building. It's definitely more of a slow burn, but you know, this is me at the start.
It's the starting story. Yeah.
It's going to pick up quite a bit in the expansions from what I hear, but already I'm decently in there in A Realm Reborn. It's, you know, it's not painful in the way that I thought it could have been.
Yeah.
I was genuine, maybe it's because my expectations the way they were. I was genuinely expecting a big horrible slog, but no, so far it's been like,
Well, if you enjoy the game, it doesn't feel that way.
Quite good, but with this promise of how incredible it very much seems to be, once, you know, you get up to the higher, like the expansions and those storylines.
Just push.
But, you know, it's even just like little things, you know, they can do their little cutscenes, you know, the camera can move, show a character talking, and it all just feels more integrated than that similar stuff does in WoW, you know? So
Big true.
I really think, yeah, I'm having fun so far. I'm in.
Beautiful. I think that's what everyone wanted to hear.
Yeah.
I think it might be what they wanted to hear. Yeah, and you know, it's, I mean, I'm in. That's what I can say. I'm enjoying the level up process so far. I want to learn more about this.
It's
world
good for that
peoples.
community. It's also good for
go
ours.
to new places, do new things, see what this Guardian Empire is all about. Cool. And it's the sort of thing I've been enjoying, just being there in that world.
Right.
Even in times where it's, I mean, almost especially in times where it's not been combat based.
Yep.
I've actually just enjoyed going about the place, doing things, learning
And
about
building the world. Yeah.
They've set it all up well. And I feel like I'm quite well integrated with who my character is, because I feel like I'm meeting that world in a similar way to how my character is, I guess. And it feels like a reasonable fantasy universe with its own internally consistent rules and things.
Yeah. That's pretty
quite different
accurate.
to how, like, you know, I hit the Shadowlands and I'm like, oh, okay, so here's, you know, the 4 themes of the theme park, all sort of, you know, they're bluntly done. Whereas here it feels, and I mean, that's a Shadowlands specific criticism. It doesn't really apply to past stuff in WoW. Yeah, it's worked on a world building level, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's quite big for me.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It expands on the rules of the universe as time goes on, but it doesn't break them in any sense.
Right.
Especially if you're paying attention. I can see a lot of people getting to, like, Shadowbringers.
Right.
Or to a certain part in Heavenward's patch content and going, what in the fuck is going on here? But it's all stuff that's explained to you and stuff that will be explained later. So there's ever a point where you're going, what's going on? It's like you can have
just
faith
chill.
that
Yeah.
it actually, that will be capitalized on
Yeah.
further down the road in some capacity, which really means you have to have your brain on, remember everything you're told,
Unfortunately,
or at least have someone who remembers it all, like Matt from our Discord, who, you know, you hit him any question, he's got the answer right away.
That's awesome. Join the balance.
What to call him.
Join the balance.
Genius FF hero.
Just Google the balance Final Fantasy 14. Sorry. Cool. So he's getting even more into it, which is great news. It's good for his community and it's good for ours. You know, I've talked about this on some other videos. Asmongold has done a couple things. If you don't know Asmongold, I would say he's in the top 3, top 5, top WoW YouTubers / streamers. And he has checked out some stuff when it does relate to Final Fantasy recently on stream. And unfortunately, he has said he would love to try out the game because he thinks the Dark Knight theme and then the Endwalker trailer was badass in some spots. And he just thinks, unfortunately, his community wouldn't be very accepting, and he doesn't want to hurt the quality of his stream and or content. And I get it. He feels kind of pigeonholed in that, but it feels like it's only directed at this game for him, whereas with Bellular's community, they're all gung-ho. It looks like a lot of the people that have been a part of his community are very lore focused, which is something that Final does well as well. So these people potentially have been playing multiple games for a long time, or he's also treating, you know, some of his community to be like, hey, he did a promo at the beginning. There's a free trial up to 60, including the first expansion, Heavenward. Like, go do it, you know. And especially since he makes WoW content with WoW in such a large drought, without being a jerk, like, what else do you have to do right now? Like, unless you're a high-end raider who's still pushing Mythic, or you're in a Keystone group that's pushing for KSM or higher, there's really not much going on in that game. So you might as well utilize this time to see if it's worthwhile. Because like I said in another video, there's nothing worse than someone who speaks on an experience that they have no experience with themselves and just have preconceptions based on what people have told them. So thank you so much for coming out and watching this video with me. I appreciate it. I got some more coming in just a sec, but we're going to save that for the next video. I'm Drew from Future Strategy Gaming. Thanks for giving me your time. Make sure you hit that like button for me. We appreciate that. Hit the subscribe button if you want to catch more of this content. I'm out. Peace.